What's up, rock stars? Yes, today I am wearing a mask just for the intro. I'm going to take this junk off real soon here. But it says make games, not campaigns. It's what I've stood for a long time. We're going to be talking about the top 5 at-risk companies right now for board games.
Thank you to my channel sponsor Into the AM. As a company that believes hard work and a great product is a proper way to conduct business, I am delighted to have them as part of the channel. They have some of the coolest graphic t-shirts around and an absolute best fit and feel that has continually exceeded my expectations. With new shirts arriving all the time and other products like boxers, hats, and even a monthly shirt club, I wholeheartedly recommend them to you. Check out the link in my description of this video for an exclusive 10% off everything they sell.
Now, as always, a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. It is through their support that I'm able to make videos just like this for you guys every single week. So if you appreciate the videos I make every single week, if you appreciate my coverage on the industry, and you can give even $1 a month, there is a link down in the description below, as well as a link to that mask and other merch like that. Again, all that's down below. Thank you so very much. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and I guess just dive right in. But I'm going to have a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm going to go over a lawsuit, and then we're going to list the 5 that I have here. And I would encourage you, I'm sure you have a company in your head. If you don't see it, list it down below. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss what these companies are in and what's going on, what's happening, why this is happening, what we can do about it, especially as consumers. Now, disclaimer. This is not a video to egg on people to attack companies, okay? So if a company is doing bad, then they're doing bad. So best case scenario, if you hate them, they're getting what they deserve, okay? Worst case scenario is nobody gets their games, and really that's what nobody wants. I want everybody to be able to get their games, ideally. But there is a certain thing we can do about this, and that's really about communication. So before I get into what I mean by that and the need for them to communicate, I just want to also say that this is really a focus on noting how close these companies are to failing. Now, with increased costs and stuff like that, and it's bringing to light more things. And as these companies begin to fail a Kickstarter, it's kind of like, a typical Ponzi scheme where it's like, you can keep going until eventually it just all falls down. And that's what we're seeing here is these companies are releasing these campaigns, and then one doesn't do well, and suddenly they all fall because they all were actually just always needing the next one, and the next one, and the next one. I'll show you a few examples of that going in. Now, let's talk about communication. This is actually the FTC brought a lawsuit for $800,000, which the guy can't pay, for a guy who made a backpack and a few other things on Kickstarter, on Indiegogo, etc. Made almost $1 million on it, and they got him on 2 things. First of all, not actually making it, not spending the money where it should have gone, right? Paying himself. FTC very much focuses on the fact that it needs to be made. Your funds need to be used to actually make the product and things that pursue that, okay? Now that can be stuff like paying artists and stuff like that. That's included in there. But you also can't just go around and just pay off your credit card debt and do this and do that and whatever, right? Which is one of the things he did. Now, with that in mind, I want to note here these violations of the FTC Act. And by the way, disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a dude that's researching this stuff, trying to do my part for you guys so that hopefully we can all come out ahead of this in the long run and the industry can be better for it. So one of the things it has is, this is the first thing it says, violations of the FTC Act, that it prohibits unfair and deceptive acts or practices in or affecting commerce. That's very broad, and it's broad on purpose. 32. Misrepresentations or deceptive omissions of material fact constitute deceptive acts or practices prohibited by Section 5A of the FTC Act. In other words, if you're just being deceiving about what's actually going on with something that you're selling, that's actually against the law. Okay. And this, by the way, the FTC, for you guys that aren't maybe not familiar with, maybe you're in Germany or something like that, in which case, hello. They're essentially a governing body from the government in America, which is where Kickstarter is actually located, and so therefore they kind of have reign over that and comment on the crowdfunding stuff and all that. So what this is talking about then is just this, the fact that he essentially let people to believe that there was progress when there wasn't. What comes from this is not that this guy pretty much spent $800,000 and has nothing to show for it because he's an idiot. And it's not to say that we need to sue everybody. I'm going to sound very anti-American in saying that that's not necessarily what happens. What does need to happen, though, is proper and honest communication. I'm going to go over some campaigns, and there are some other campaigns I'm sure you've thought of, that BS a lot. That for a long time hid information, purposely deceived people into thinking that things were better than they were, to continue to launch campaigns, which is exactly what this guy is getting sued $800,000 for, because he kept launching campaigns and kept trying to string things along as long as he could in that kind of Ponzi scheme thing until eventually it all collapsed. But until then, he was able to make $800,000. So we're going to see these companies that are not doing well, that can't actually deliver a product, continue to launch campaigns and continue to hide that information. That is illegal. You cannot do that. The FTC can look into you. All it took for this guy was a couple hundred people notifying the FTC saying, hey, this is bad. The FTC looked into it, said, yeah, we think so. They investigated further and then brought a lawsuit against him. Okay. So by all means, if you feel like you are not being communicated well, if you feel like the developer is not being honest with you, mention this FTC. Send them a link to this lawsuit. I'll link down in the description below to it. Use this to get better information. This can empower us consumers to have actual real information on what's going on with these companies. I'm tired of reading 7 months worth of fake BS crap when they never had the money to begin with and they didn't tell you about it. Meanwhile, they launched another campaign hoping that that campaign will pay for this one. Enough. They need to communicate. We need to be talking with our developers more. And they need to be talking with us and actually telling us what's going on, according to the FTC, and they will sue you if you don't. So anyway, I'll link down to the reporting thing here and all that. So you can report, you can do whatever. Now that doesn't mean just like attack anything that you don't like communication wise. If they're trying to communicate, maybe just trying to encourage it. There are better ways than just a blunt, thud to be able to get what you want. But anyway, let's do the top 5. So first up is FunForge, Sarl or FunForge. They did Monumental, and this is kind of what I'm talking about here, right? So they did Namiji, I can never say that, right? Undelivered still to a lot of people, unable to be paid for, can't deliver. Monumental reprint, same thing. Far Cry Beyond canceled. They didn't look. This is what I'm talking about, right? So they were already struggling because they already didn't have enough for Namiji because they still haven't delivered that. So obviously the funds that were there weren't enough. So then they launched a Monumental reprint. Well, we'll just reprint our popular stuff, right? And hey, that did pretty good. Okay, well, let's just keep going. Let's do an IP game. Far Cry Beyond. It failed. And now suddenly they hit a failure. And suddenly everything that's undelivered has an issue. You're going to see this over and over and over again. How many companies are one failure away from not delivering any of their games? And how right is that to be? It should not be the case. You've messed up if you're always needing the next one to actually deliver what you've promised. And you are required to deliver. That was another thing in the lawsuit. It mentions the terms of use for Indiegogo and Kickstarter. It's not that that's necessarily law, but what they're saying is they can use that in their lawsuit against you, saying you agreed to do this. And in that terms, it says you have to deliver. So anyway, they're done with Kickstarter. They're not doing that anymore. They're talking about doing retail only and stuff like that. Now, one of the issues here is there's still no line of sight. And really what they've said is we're trying to find out ways to fund, but we're not going to tell you about it. We'll share it when it comes. The problem is there are other companies that I'm about to mention that went through this process trying to find more funds before mentioning it to everybody. None of them worked and they still had to fail. So, you still let's communicate and talk. What are your plans here? As far as I can tell, there is no plan forward and I have no idea how they're going to deliver anything else again. And that's really, really unfortunate for everybody involved. Next up, Mythic Games, Darkest Dungeon, came out and they said, hey, we need more funds. Everybody pay, around $50 more or whatever. It depends on how much you bought, and it's only for the people who bought English copies so far, and it's only Darkest Dungeon so far. But let's take a look at this. Let's go in and click this. 13 created, and Anasteer underfunded according to them on what their expectations were. They got 5,000 people to buy their game, but Mythic Games had grown to be such a big company, and they made so many big games that were selling at a loss that they weren't financially sound, but nobody knew. They were not being honest about this. And so they were launching more and more and more, hoping that, it'll just keep on going and eventually go away and they can outride the storm, and then it's gone, right? It didn't fund well enough. And so now everything's on fire, and they've laid off people, and they're saying, hey, we can't deliver Darkest Dungeon. You have to pay more. You don't get your game, and all this other stuff, all because of one messed up campaign way down the line. Now, anybody who put money into Anasteer, like me, had no idea that they were walking into a risky situation, right? Anybody who bought Monumental reprint didn't know that they didn't even have enough to do an Namiji. Now, a lot of that is increased prices, right? And I get that. I'm not trying to be insensitive towards that. I understand manufacturing has gone up. I understand that shipping has gone up. That being said, there's also a lot of bad business decisions going on. And regardless, there's not a lot of good communication going on talking about these hard things and these difficulties and these situations until it's far, far, far too late. So Mythic Games also there. Not sure what the path forward is on that. Next up, we have Grim Lord Games. This one is messy, messy, messy. So they have two outstanding actually here. So they have the Everrain, which is only partially funded or partially delivered, and Village Attacks Grim Dynasty, which is completely, nowhere to be seen. Now, the issue here is exactly this. All of this communication stopped in April. April was the last time they mentioned anything about this. They said that all the stuff went to the hub. So it's US, Canada, the rest of the world, all the products there, and yet nothing. You contact Quartermaster Logistics. Yeah, no, we're still waiting for them to finish their part. Their part is paying. So they haven't paid, and they haven't paid for months, and they've gone radio silent. It's dead in the water, guys. It's just not going to happen. It took too long. Again, these delayed games that took forever, they started pre-COVID, and now they're at the worst part when it comes to distribution for COVID, plus all the costs of running a business for that many years. And it's bad. It's really, really bad, and it's not looking good. And I don't know when we will get another update, when they'll decide to communicate with any of their backers again. It's been months of nothing. Maybe they won't ever come on again. I don't know. But I know that they're deleting their Facebook comments if you mention it. So don't go on Facebook for there. Don't go on the fan group for there either. Actually, there is a second group started for people to be able to communicate with each other about this issue, because you really can't go anywhere else without them. Their only interaction with the community is deleting comments right now. So that should tell you all you need to know about that. Grimlord Games is joining the list of people that I think are incredibly at risk. Okay, now, Peterson Games, we have this. A note, I'm recording this before Friday, obviously. However, on Friday, they will be having a video talking about next steps. So we'll find out kind of what's going on with them. But he has a long, long list of undelivered games with no path forward except maybe, hopefully, a good retail Cthulhu War shipment that might be able to start delivering things, but that doesn't bring money in afterwards unless it continues to bring in good money. So I don't really know what it is. Hyperspace was forever ago. There's a ton of other games that they still need to deliver. It's really, really bad there over at Peterson Games as well. And they just had to do another load of layoffs and stuff like that. And again, communication's key. It sounds like they're actually trying to communicate here. We're going to get a video. We'll see. I'll link down to it below. I'll pin it once it's available. So if I haven't yet, let me know. Go and post it in the comments. Ping me however you can to get my attention, and we'll get that uploaded for everybody. And finally, we have Blacklist Miniatures. They pretty much just died. So what happened is they don't have enough to deliver their Fantasy Series 1, and they don't have a way of making more money either. So they have all their product in Quartermaster Logistics. Again, that should sound familiar. Oh, and by the way, like if you look at this, I mean, again, same thing, right? Look, this was down here, and then Dire Alliance, and then another fantasy miniature series, and then look at that, a failed campaign. How many times have we seen this now? It's continual, where they're just stringing you along, and then suddenly, bam. And this is another example where they BS'd you for months. They haven't had the money for a long, long time, but they were just lying. So the moment a company says, hey, we need more money, take a look at just what their last month update was. Did they mention there was an issue brewing? Did they mention anything at all about it? If not, they could be communicating better, right? And that goes all the way from FunForge across the board, where these just come out of the blue, just out of nowhere. Suddenly it's, oh, by the way, we've not had money for like a month or years or whatever it is, right? And it's just, it's really, really nasty. So anyway, they can't even sell their product because they use the hub that they haven't paid the bill to be able to sell stuff online and stuff like that. So they can't even do that. They tried to open a GoFundMe, but they also tried to tie rewards directly to that, which GoFundMe doesn't allow. So GoFundMe took down their thing, so they can't even get money that way. So they are pretty much blocked every way they can right now of getting money. I have no idea what's going on. As far as I can tell, there's only one employee left of the company. Look, if you backed something from Blacklist Games, don't expect your product. And unless there's a small chance, because this has already been made and it's already at the hub, that there might be a path forward for you to get that game. Maybe. But if it hasn't been built yet, don't expect it to. These companies are just gone. And in fact, Quartermaster Logistics even had a update talking about the Blacklist miniatures thing. And again, this was, I think, before the GoFundMe was taken down, which was taken down, I think, within a day or two, maybe. It was pretty quick, and it wasn't very funded anyway. People aren't giving them their money. And honestly, I can't blame any of you. Look, this is not a fun video to make, but it is an opportunity to make something good happen from something bad. Every one of these situations is bad because it means somebody gave money to a company and they might not get anything back from it. And that is super duper unfortunate, especially because it's typically no problem of theirs. It's a problem on the other side, not ours. However, there's an opportunity to make the future better, and that's with this communication push. Again, I highly encourage you to mention the fact that you can mention the fact that the FTC specifically has sued somebody for not being honest in their communication and not being forthcoming with their backers on the actual situation at hand with the business and with the product. Use that to your advantage. Let's make these companies actually talk to us so that we know ahead of time, hey, there might be some issues here. Maybe I don't want to put my money in there. Because I think a lot of us, if we had known that they were just stringing us along multiple campaigns, that maybe we wouldn't have put as much money in there. Maybe wouldn't have funded as much, which could have saved them, honestly, because a lot of these things, like the fantasy miniatures from Blacklist Games, that was a terrible product. They were losing money on it. If less people had bought it, it would have been better for them. It would have been a smaller campaign with less to ship and a smaller overall goal of money that they need to be able to ship. And that's what's affecting. Notice all these are miniature games. That's a big deal. That's who's affected the most by this. And so it would have helped everybody if they had just communicated more. So push for that. Again, link down below to all that. If there is a company that you would have put on this list or add to this list, let me know. Maybe I can look into their situation as well. Let you know my thoughts on that. Guys, as always, stay safe, back responsibly. Look at all the wonderful games that you probably already have and be okay with something that's realistic instead of backing and putting thousands of dollars into all of this and then suddenly not having anything in return for that for forever instead of just a bajillion years while they finally deliver these massive games that they promise us. Be safe, be smart, have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy the weekend, enjoy the summer, have a great one. Take care, guys. Bye.